A vector drawable file bears some similarities to an XML layout file in that it's a hierarchy of components which will be rendered at runtime. In this case, we have a vector drawable of the caster.io logo. In the panel on the left, the editor, we can see the various components which make it up, and we get a nice preview on the right, and this is quite useful for seeing changes in real time. At the top level, we have the vector element. This is the root element of the vector drawable and has this rather curious double width and height. We have the width and height and the viewport width and height. They do subtly different things, and it's really useful to have both of them. The width and height is the extrinsic width and height of the vector drawable. In other words, when we place this in an image view in a layout, this will be the measured width and height of the vector drawable. The viewport width and height represents the size of the canvas that we're going to draw upon. I use the phrase canvas because it's similar to what an artist might draw upon using brushes or pens. The canvas is the surface that we're going to render to, and we have to define the size of it before we can actually draw anything onto it. The units here are unimportant. These are merely internal references and they have no relevance outside of the vector drawable. So as long as we're consistent internally, these can be whatever we like. We can also use floating point values here quite happily. Because this is going to be rendered on the GPU, which is specifically designed to handle floating point operations, there's no real performance hit here. The one important thing is that anything that gets subsequently drawn outside of these bounds, either as a negative value or greater than this width and height, will not be rendered within the bounds of the vector drawable. Although the viewport width and height are totally separate from the width and height, it is important that we match the aspect ratios. In this case, the viewport width is equal to the viewport height, so it's an aspect ratio of 1:1. Therefore, the width must be the same as the height to maintain that aspect ratio. If the viewport width was twice the viewport height, then we'd also need to make the width twice the height to maintain a 2:1 aspect ratio. If we didn't do this, we would see some anamorphic distortions. If I change the height here and halve it, we can see in the preview that it squashes the vector drawable.